Oh, hello there. Yes. Well, good grief. We head towards the weekend. We head towards the end of my time off. Boo and indeed hiss. Yes, much to the non-delight of lots and lots of very concerned people that really support the idea of work and thrift and thriving and capitalism out there. I actually don't like being at work, okay? Don't want to shock you, but I've reached that stage in my life, 40 odd years of doing it, that I actually like time. It's rather nice. I get time spent doing this with you, which is gorgeous. Of course it is. So anyway, yes, you may have noticed over the last few days, or you may not, that there's been lots of stuff about the new national curriculum review that the Labour Party want to bring in. Boo and hiss, Labour Party. Bridget and her education department, boo and hiss, woman boo and hiss. Yes, anyway, they've given it to some woman who's a professor in education and is a known feminist, according to the papers. Yes, so you can see how appalling it's going to be. Anyway, generally speaking, our media have already decided, despite the fact that the actual publication date is months away, that everything in it is going to be awful. So we get these gorgeous headlines from the Daily Telegraph, for example: Labour to make national curriculum more diverse. Bridget Phillipson starts review to refresh education programmes so it reflects diversities of our society. Yes, imagining updating things. Be awful, wouldn't it? Labour urged to drop Western-centric science in the school curriculum. Prestigious scientific institutions call for diversity, called pure educational vandalism by the Tories. Yes. Now, various scientific bodies, like the group, the sort of National Biology Foundation or whatever they're called, have actually called for changes in the national curriculum. Oh dear, how awful. What do they know about it, other than being experts, yeah? And we get this: Union demands teachers challenge whiteness in arts lessons. Education Secretary has launched a review of the national curriculum which says it should reflect diversities in society. Yes, isn't that awful? You see, what's going on, the government has asked for people's opinions, and people with vested interest have been giving them. So you get, for example, teachers and head teachers and various academics and professional bodies who, like biologists, for example, so I've just pointed out, who will be giving their input, and apparently all of them are wrong compared to a handful of frothing Tory MPs, because the handful of frothing Tory MPs, even though they have no idea what the outcome of this will be, are very cross in advance of it all. So it's worthwhile thinking about what exactly it is they're getting very cross about. So let's dive in. This is from The Sun. Don't ditch 1066. No, it was more of a hill, but that's another story. Fury after Keir Starmer urged to axe British history such as 1066 from national curriculum in woke shake-up. Woke shake-up, what a great phrase. Robert Jenrick, spoke out saying British schools should teach British history as they've done for centuries. Yes. And if you read the article, linked down below, as ever, okay, you discover that no one anywhere is suggesting that schools should not teach 1066. There's no mention of it in the article. Still, sounds bad, doesn't it? And if you're reading the headline, it really is very bad. And Robert Jenrick has really shown himself to be very, very much a man of the moment and on the ball, because he says about, schools having taught this stuff for centuries, which, they haven't, I'm afraid. Sorry, but realistically, if you want to talk about the British education system as it is, and not talking about, somebody in 1532 who went to one of the very few schools that there were, I'm talking about actual education, you have to go back to, guesses? What particular decade? What particular decade do you reckon we got mandatory full-time education for all young people in this country? No, it wasn't. It was 1870. Now, if you want to be generous about it, in terms of being generous about it, you can go back to the 1850s, and at that stage lots and lots of kids would have been in school. So we don't get centuries out of that. Sorry, Jenrick, but the maths just doesn't add up, mate. No, still, that doesn't really matter, does it? Because the important thing is to get very cross at something that isn't happening. Very, very important, because otherwise the wokists have won, haven't they? Yes, the terrorists will have won in that case. Come on to them in a little bit. This is from the Express. Fury, as Bridget Phillipson sets her sight on making national curriculum more diverse, in inverted commas. Yes, imagine having a better national curriculum. It'd be awful, wouldn't it? An interim report is likely to be published in early 2025. Yes, we are just a couple of days in, with the full set of recommendations to curriculum changes to be released later in the year. Yes. Anyway, the Express piece manages to parrot what's been in the Daily Telegraph with Sir Hayes and his view of it, and he's obviously, being Renter Fury man, he's very, very cross about stuff that probably isn't going to be in it. Of course he isn't. But to get to the crux of the matter, we end up with this glorious piece from not the New Culture Forum. I'm getting me right-wing mixed up, from the Free Speech Union. Yes, because Toby Young knows a lot about education because he used to be involved in it. Yeah, to delete all those tweets that he'd had just to get a job with the government because it looked a bit dodgy. But that's another story. It's another bit of history that we won't talk about, presumably. Labour's new national curriculum will mean even more children are taught to hate our country. Yes, you see, the thing that we don't know anything about is going to be bad because the people involved in it are bad people like me. Okay, yeah. So anyway, what this is by Joe Barron. Yeah, it is Joe Barron. Yes, who isn't the person's real name. So what we have to do when you read this, link down below, please do have a look for yourself and tell me how wrong I am. But it's an anonymised piece because he or she or they are very, very, very worried that the wokists will come round and murder their cat having read this. But it says that a school somewhere that Joe was in somewhere had a unit that was whether or not the British Empire was a good or a bad thing, and apparently the teachers had all agreed that it was a bad thing, and it was largely a Muslim school, which means that all of those kids are going to be taught by their teachers that it was a bad thing, and therefore they're going to join ISIS. There you go, just to paraphrase what's been written there. Now, I'm sure all of that is exactly true. It's just that I think it's a bit flimsy to be going on some bloke who has to remain anonymous about a school that may or may not exist somewhere, that may or may not, according to his hazy recollection, have done something. You can look up the national curriculum yourself at Key Stage 3. Again, link down below. Do your own research, as they say. Yeah, that often involves more than just, flicking to page 9 of Google and finding the one thing that vaguely agrees with you, but that's just me being, an academic. Yes, you can actually look this stuff up for yourself. Now, I'm fully aware of the migration unit in GCSE history, and it's certainly not taught like that whatsoever. But that's just me, unlike Robert Jenrick, actually knowing things. Anyway, we will see what comes out of this, but if there are a large number of explosions in mid-2025 caused by Muslim teenagers, you'll know exactly who to blame, and it won't be Robert Jenrick, will it? No. Anyway, I can't believe this stuff. It is so farcical. It is so farcical, and yet here we are. I just always feel like it's for me, the parallels of what's going on with the flat Earth community at the moment, who had the final experiment where somebody proved that the sun doesn't actually set in Antarctica at this time of year, and they're having to find reasons why that isn't true. And it reminds me of exactly the same mindset, because of course once you've decided something, anything that actually interferes with that information must be a lie or false or something. So someone like me that actually works in education and knows about this stuff must somehow be lying about it, because it's a lot easier than changing your mind, because after all, that would be the kind of thing that an adult would do, wouldn't they, if they'd been taught critical thinking, or indeed maths or history, which Robert Jenrick patently hasn't. Anyway, do have a glorious and lovely and glorious day. Do enjoy the, being indoors and not being out. Cold, isn't it? Cold. I've had to really pack sensibly in terms of wandering around various fishing ports in Lincolnshire. Anyway, do enjoy. I will wish you well for the weekend.